Every single day, you trust one of the most private moments of your life to an invention younger than the light bulb. You have never questioned it. You have never wondered who made it, why it exists, or what humanity did for the previous 200,000 years without it. Toilet paper feels ancient, obvious, inevitable. It is none of those things. And by the end of this video, you will never look at that little white roll the same way again. Let's start with what the evidence actually says. Paper itself was invented in China during the Han Dynasty, roughly 2,000 years ago, and historians credit the court official Kai Lun with perfecting the process around the year 105. But paper for writing is one thing, paper for wiping is another. The earliest clear written reference we have comes from the 6th century, from a Chinese scholar named Yan Zhetui. In his famous book of family instructions, he wrote that he would never dare use paper for toilet purposes if it had quotations from the classics or the names of sages written on it. Read that again. He wasn't debating whether to use paper, he was debating which paper was respectful enough to use. That means by the 500s, toilet paper was already so normal in China that people had etiquette rules about it. Fast forward to the Ming Dynasty, and Chinese court records describe the imperial household ordering hundreds of thousands of large sheets of soft paper every year, produced specifically for the emperor's court. While Chinese royalty was unrolling custom made luxury sheets, what was the rest of the world doing? Picture this scene, because it really happened every single day in every Roman city. You walk into a public latrine in ancient Rome. There are no stalls, no doors, 20 stone seats arranged in an open room side by side, and most of them are occupied. Men sit shoulder to shoulder chatting about politics, business, the games. Below the seats, a channel of running water flows constantly, and in front of everyone, in a shallow gutter, sits the tool they all share, a sea sponge tied to the end of a wooden stick, soaking in salt water or vinegar. When a Roman finished his business, he reached for the communal sponge stick, used it, rinsed it, and placed it back for the next person. We know this device existed because the Roman philosopher Seneca described it in one of his letters in a dark story about a gladiator who used one in a final act of desperation. Historians still debate exactly how universally the sponge stick was used, but Roman writers themselves treated it as an ordinary object of daily life, and Rome was the sophisticated option. Across history, archaeologists and historians have documented humans wiping with whatever the local environment offered: smooth stones, moss, leaves, corn cobs in colonial America, snow in the Arctic, broken pieces of pottery in ancient Greece, which honestly raises more questions than it answers. In Japan, archaeologists have recovered flat wooden sticks called chugi from ancient latrine sites, purpose carved wiping tools that have been studied and displayed by Japanese museums. So here is the timeline so far. China, comfortable paper by the 500s. Everyone else, sponges, sticks, stones, and hope. And it stays that way for over 1,000 years. But hold on, because the strangest part of this story isn't in the ancient world at all. It's hiding in your great grandparents' lifetime. And it involves a marketing promise so disturbing that once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. That's coming in a moment. First, the man who invented modern toilet paper and was punished for it. In 1857, a New York entrepreneur named Joseph Gaiety introduced the first commercial toilet paper in the United States. He called it Gaiety's medicated paper, sold it in flat sheets infused with aloe, and marketed it as a cure for hemorrhoids. He was so proud of his creation that he printed his own name on every single sheet. And it flopped. Almost nobody bought it. Why would they? Americans already had free paper. The Sears catalog and the Old Farmer's Almanac arrived at rural homes packed with hundreds of soft, absorbent pages, and families hung them in the outhouse. The almanac's publishers even added a hole in the corner so it could hang from a hook more easily. Gaiety was asking people to pay for something they were already getting in the mail for free. The product that finally worked came decades later. Around 1890, the Scott Paper Company in Philadelphia began selling toilet paper on small rolls, the format you know today. But here's the detail that tells you everything about the era. Scott was initially embarrassed by its own product. Toilet paper was considered so shameful, so unmentionable, that the company sold it through intermediaries and pharmacists rather than proudly branding it. Customers would ask the chemist for it in a lowered voice, and it would be handed over wrapped in plain paper, like contraband. Now, the twist I promised you. In the 1930s, a brand called Northern Tissue ran one of the most quietly horrifying advertising campaigns in history. Their big selling point, printed proudly in magazines, was that their toilet paper was splinter free. Splinter free. Sit with that for a second because advertising only ever brags about solving problems people actually have. Early mass produced toilet paper was made so cheaply and so quickly that stray wood splinters in the sheets were a genuine, everyday hazard. For decades, the modern, civilized replacement for leaves and sponges could stab you. Your great grandparents lived through the splinter era of toilet paper, and the industry considered fixing it a breakthrough worth advertising. And here is the mirror, because this story is really about you. You are watching this in a world where toilet paper feels like a basic human need, ranked somewhere next to water and electricity. In early 2020, when the pandemic hit, one of the very first things entire nations panic bought was not medicine, not fuel, but toilet paper. Shelves were stripped bare from Sydney to London to Los Angeles. News agencies around the world documented fights breaking out in supermarket aisles over rolls of paper. Humans who had never once thought about toilet paper suddenly could not imagine surviving without it. Yet your species spent 99.9% of its existence never touching a single sheet. Billions of people today across much of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe still consider water the cleaner option and view the paper only approach as the strange one. The thing you treat as a timeless necessity is actually one of the newest habits humanity has ever formed, barely 5 or 6 generations old, younger than the telephone, younger than the bicycle, younger than canned food. So the next time you casually reach for that roll without a single thought, remember the chain behind it. A 6th century scholar worried about respecting the classics. Romans sharing a sponge on a stick. A New Yorker printing his name on sheets nobody wanted. A company too embarrassed to sell its own invention. And an advertisement celebrating the absence of splinters. Every single day, you trust one of the most private moments of your life to an invention younger than the light bulb. But now you know the truth. It isn't the paper that's remarkable. It's how quickly 200,000 years of human improvisation surrendered to a simple white roll, and how completely you forgot there was ever another way.